Macros are a way to automate complicated tasks on the computer. This can come to mean a lot of different things. Take my mouse for instance, Logitech G502 wireless. Every single button I have can be programmed to simulate a key press, open a program, or do any number of complicated tasks. To do this, you have to use Logitech's proprietary GHub software. It's a real shame that the UI is so good, so easy to use. You can only use it with specific Logitech hardware. I'm not going to knock them for that though. This is probably the best mouse I've ever used. Here's how you create macros for it. Unfortunately, what I'm going to show you is only applicable to Windows. Open GHub and click on your device. This icon is the Assignments tab. Looking at the layout here, I want this button to do something special for me. Click on Macros and Create New Macro. Enter descriptive name, synonym. I have a few options here. No repeat is the simplest. We'll just conduct my macro once. There are situations where you want to have repetition or more finite control, but this will do for now. Click Start Now and record keystrokes. It's going to keep track of everything I do. Every key I press, every mouse button will be listed here. It will even record modifier keys like Shift. This is great for shortcut keys in programs. When I'm done, I'll just hit Stop. I can reorder the entries here if I need to. I can even delete some mistakes if I want to by clicking on the entry and pressing delete on the keyboard. So, back to the assignments. I can drag the macro to the button I want. Now when I press this button on the mouse, it repeats those actions in sequence as you would expect. Let's start over. I do a lot of surveys for extra cash. I always want to know what I thought about their world-changing research. Let's add text this time. Participating in the survey was the single greatest moment of my existence, and I will always treasure this time I shared with you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart and with every fiber in my body. I set that macro and now it reproduces it character for character. Note that you can configure GHub to have different profiles for different situations. You can even configure it to switch profiles depending on the currently active window or game. Make sure to read the support docs. This is great and all, but I'm sure most of you will never buy this mouse. That's fine. There's a free alternative out there called AutoHotkey. Now, it doesn't have a fancy GUI like GHub. In fact, it doesn't have a GUI at all. You have to write macros in a text editor using its own scripting language. Now, I know this isn't as convenient as just dragging and dropping controls, but trust me, I've tested countless programs and they all fall short of AutoHotkey. So, a common use of AutoHotkey is in games. You can consider it cheating in competitive games, but it makes some key combinations so much easier. Take flight in Minecraft for example. You have a few requirements to take off from the ground. You need to be wearing elytra, you need to have your fireworks rockets equipped, then you press space to jump, space again to glide, and right click to take off. Not too complicated. We can reproduce this with AutoHotkey pretty easily. Install AutoHotkey with the default options. Then we'll start a new text document. I like using Sublime as my text editor, but use whatever you want. First, we select a key or button that will trigger this action. I'm going to use the backslash, but use whatever is convenient to you. Make sure to read the documentation on special names for mouse buttons, joypad, and certain keys. Now on the next line, simply type send, comma, and the sequence you want to reproduce. So first I'm going to switch to the toolbar key I assigned to rockets, 9. Then to press space. Normally I can type an actual space like this, but Minecraft is weird and won't detect it that way. So I have to tell it to push space down, then release it. Press space again. And finally, press the right mouse button, R button. End the script with a return statement. Save this file as an AHK file on your computer. Double click it to run it. It shows up as a tray icon. That means it's running. Let's try it in the game. I press my backslash key. Fail. The reason the player just flops around is that the timings are wrong. You press space, but you have to wait a little bit before you press space again. The default delay is 10 milliseconds, which is too short. Back to the script, I'm going to add a delay here. New line and a time in milliseconds. Boom. That should work. And you're flying. Success. Trouble is that the script runs everywhere. So basically I can't use a backslash without it doing some trippy stuff. I could stop it by right-clicking on the taskbar icon and selecting exit, but it's too much work to do that every time. Instead, you should right-click the icon and select Windows Spy. Click on your Minecraft window and note the AHK-EXE value. You're going to type this into the script. Pound if when active AHK_EXE javaw.exe. At the very end, type pound if. Save. Right-click the taskbar icon one more time and select Reload this script. Now it will only work if Minecraft is active. Now that this key is working, I can assign it to my GHub profile and I can fly at will no matter what I'm doing. AutoHotkey is even more powerful than GHub in that it can simulate mouse movements. This is perfect for swapping out armor because there is no sequence of key presses for that. Check out the linked scripts in the description. The trick here is to use Windows Spy to note the window coordinates of whatever you're trying to click. Use the click command to simulate a click anywhere. Also check out the default delays I set for key presses and mouse clicks. So I bought a Wacom One drawing tablet to make my shitty art. It's a display tablet, very hip. It works really well, but it only has one button. Maybe I should have bought something else, but someone I looked up to used one of these. Sure, the software has this cool radial menu that you can configure with simple macros, but I need more. I bought a Logitech Gamepad to supplement my workflow while using Illustrator. This is the layout I set for myself. That's 20 unique commands and some of them do multiple actions. I know, it sounds like overkill, especially since I still have the keyboard right in front of me. Hear me out. I have my stylus in my right hand, so my left hand is free. Most of my Illustrator shortcuts can be accommodated by stretching my hand out like a piano player, but it's much easier if I hold a gamepad this way. I don't have to think about my hand's placement on my keyboard, and I can sit in a more comfortable position. I have the AutoHotkey script in the description. It's a little messy, yes. Working with gamepads isn't as straightforward as assigning keys. You have to capture axis values and create if-else chains to respond based on the reported angle. I also have some advanced sequences. When I hold up, it activates the eraser. When I let go, it switches to the blob brush. This is a great arrangement for things that go hand in hand like that. Illustrator has its own kind of macro too. Most Adobe products have an Actions feature. This is very helpful for repetitive tasks, and it's more reliable than AutoHotkey in certain circumstances. You may not have the toolbar icon for Actions in your given workspace, so click on Window, Actions. Default Actions is a list of helpful actions that I frankly never find a use for. You need to create a new set to begin. Name it whatever you want. Now draw a rectangle or whatever you want to manipulate and make sure it's selected. With the set highlighted, click Create New Action. Name the action something relevant and click Record. Most of everything you do will be logged and replicated when you run the macro later. click stop when you're done. This one makes for a nice spiral pattern that you can repeat. You can move the actions around and delete steps you don't need if you want. To run it, you can click the play button when the macro is highlighted. Double-click the macro and you can assign it to a function key if you want. Let's try something more complicated. Illustrator has a feature where you can draw inside a shape. That's great, but it kind of breaks things. You can no longer click inside the shape to select it. I have a better approach. Make sure you have an object selected. Create a new action and call it Draw Inside. The first step is to go to Window Attributes. Enter a name here. Selection is fine. Edit Copy. Edit Paste in Front. Now in the Actions menu, click the hamburger button and choose Select Object. Type in the name you chose earlier. Object Clipping Mask Make. Go back to the attribute setting and delete the name. Stop the macro and let's see what it does. If I double-click this object, you can see that it's a clip group. Unfortunately, there is no macro command to isolate to your selection, which means you have to do some extra clicking to work inside the shape. Trust me, I looked. It's an oversight by Adobe. So this is where we use AutoHotkey in conjunction with the Illustrator macros. Set the function key for the Draw Inside action to some key. F4 works for me. Go to Edit, Keyboard Shortcuts. Change the option to Menu Commands. Search for Isolate Selected Object and set the shortcut to another key, F5 in my case. Create a new AutoHotkey script. Set it to a key or button of your choosing. Send a key press to activate the action. Then we have to sleep an approximate time while we wait for Illustrator to do its work. Then press F5 to isolate the selection. Save and run the script. Back in Illustrator, we can test it. Boom, it works. And it remains selectable. Perfection. Setting the sleep time in a script is always a matter of trial and error, so keep that in mind when you're writing your own scripts. Now for all you programmers, it's no surprise that there is a macro functionality in IntelliJ IDEA, the leading Java IDE. It works very similarly to what you've used before. Go to Edit, Macros, start macro recording. It records keystrokes, menu commands, etc. Press the stop button down below when you're done. Give it a name if you want. To play the macro, go back to the menu and click the name of the macro you want to run. It's that simple. You can edit the macros as well. And this is how you set your macro to a keyboard shortcut. But honestly, I don't have a use for the traditional macro in IDEA. Most menu commands I need can be assigned to a keyboard shortcut. If not, There's probably a plugin that would address that need. No, I use live templates. These are far more configurable and functional for the coder. Actually, there's quite a number of live templates built in. If you type S out and open up autocomplete, it will automatically type out the ridiculously long system.out.println that we're all familiar with. There's a few variations too. SOUT-V will easily print a value out for you if you're doing some cheap debugging. Type in the name of the value you're trying to get only once, which will save you precious moments you can otherwise spend drinking coffee. You can see all the existing live templates in the setting under Editor. Expand the Java node. ITER, IT. These help a lot when typing all this repetitive boilerplate code. Let's think about making something specific for us. Click on these default templates. You'll see a lot of variable syntax which controls where the insertion point goes as you type. The Edit Variables menu controls the order that these variables are presented to the user and gives you advanced expression options to help fill them in as you go. Let's close that for now. With Java selected, click the plus button. Live template. We're going to do a simple one based on SOUT. Call it SOUT-S. Prints a string with quotes. Type the body of your code here, system.out.println, and some quotes. If we left it like this, the insertion point would just go to the end after the semicolon. You have to put the special variable end inside the quotes so you can start typing right away. The last step is to add a context. Click Define. In the Java group, select Statement. That means this suggestion will only show up if I'm writing Java code and only when I'm in a context where I'm allowed to type a statement. Click OK. SOUT-S autocomplete. Typey. This is great. Let's practice with a slightly more advanced one. When I'm writing UIs with libgdx, I'm constantly writing these excessive change listeners. Without adding some utility method to my classes, I want to make this much faster. This time I'm going to just highlight my existing code like this. Go to Tools, Save as Live Template. Give it a snappy abbreviation, but not something you would accidentally type otherwise. CHL works for me. Adds a change listener to an actor. You'll see that it writes out the fully qualified names here, but it will automatically import as necessary when you use it. Let's erase text button with a variable. Call it actor in caps. The end variable goes into the body of the method so you can start typing your response immediately. Next, click on Edit Variables. If you define more than one variable, order they are listed here is the order that you'll be asked to type them in. Press the up and down arrows to change the priority. Actor is a special case. You want it to be filled with the most relevant variable available. So in the expression, select variable of type. For the type, we'll put the fully qualified name for actor in quotes. That's com.badlogic.gdx.scenes.scene2d.actor. Click OK and OK again. Test it out. CHL. It automatically fills the actor with text button. That's correct. Press Tab to proceed. Then let's put a cheeky method here. We are good to go. I hope you enjoyed this admittedly long and meandering journey through macros. You are now an expert in efficiency. Bend the power of computing to your will.
I have a really important question. How do you resize the game without black borders? It's not in the wiki, I already looked.
It's right here. You need to use an extend viewport.
That's not what I'm looking for. I'm positive. Check again.
Sir, it says keeps the world aspect ratio without black bars.
You're mistaken. I need a video or something else.
Read it.
Thank you.
You will give the people of Earth an ideal to strive towards. They will race behind you. They will stumble. They will fall. But in time, they will join you in the sun count. In time, you will help them accomplish wonders.